Welcome back. This week we're talking about notes and syncing. Syncing those notes between your devices, your phone, your tablet, your computer, your laptop, your work laptop, your travel laptop, your computer that you borrow when you go stay in Europe for 2 months. There are multiple ways around this. And I'm going to have a focus specifically on just text notes because there are a few different systems for synchronizing files already. Like we spoke about various ways to synchronize files securely and quickly. But with this, I just want to focus on the important notes that we may need to have with us. Those things that you may have 100 things or 200 things that you need to have quick access to, but you don't need to keep on the top of your mind. So what does that mean, a plain text note? Um, we're going to keep the license plate of our car on a note. So I'm going to let my phone remember this. I walk over to someplace and I need to go pay. They say, enter your license plate. I don't walk back across the parking lot to my car. I just pull out my phone and I have a note that says my Toyota license plate. And I look at my phone and then I type it in. I make a note for a parking space when there's one of those big multi-level parking structures and I'm going to be there all day. I go, oh, let me just make a note. I'm here. Or when I go to the Pantages Theater, there's a underground parking. I make a note of the floor that I'm on. Or if you use a throwaway email address when you buy some tickets, you might want to just have a note that says axe throwing, and then you put the email address because you may need to remember it someday. And that sounds like a bunch of little tiny notes, which is exactly the idea. In my system, you make your notes atomic. Like one idea is one note. So you don't have a 1,000 lines of a note unless you're making the note is, let's say, an essay. You found a really great essay, you copy and you paste it into the note. That's one idea for one note. It's easy to read them, it's easy to find them. Uh, but what other types of information might you and I need to have access to? What about the recovery code for the service, the website we just signed up for? Make a note that says Dropbox recovery codes, put them in there. That if you have secure notes, that might be a good place. And there are different ways to have secure notes, but maybe you have a list of your family's social security numbers or your business EINs, your employee identification numbers for the IRS. Maybe we don't want to keep it on the top of mind, but we want to have it accessible. Maybe you keep a safe in the garage and a safe in your bedroom, and you just want to write those down because you don't go in every day and you really don't want to forget the combinations. Or you set a PIN number for your virtual Android phone and then you forget it and you can't log in anymore and you have to delete that. It's a good idea to just write that sort of thing down. And the issue is there's just no limit to the amount of small pieces of information that we need to keep track of. And rather than trying to determine, well, this piece of information is highly secure, I'm going to put it in my secure note, and this piece of information, let's say it's a cookie recipe, is not secure, I'm going to put it in this other system. We might just put everything into one system, or maybe break it up if you happen to have two convenient systems, but probably make a note. It's got to be easy and fast. We want to be able to just open the app, click the new button, write down that one thing that we need to write down, and then move on. And it's okay if you have thousands of notes because you can just search for whatever it is. So how much security is security, though? I had to pause for a second and let you think. Well, I don't want just anybody getting my social security number. So is it okay if it's on your computer in a text file? Probably. Your computer's probably encrypted. The hard drive's probably encrypted and your phone is probably encrypted, and as long as the connection between the two. So if you're using something like iCloud Notes, that's probably secure enough, especially if you turn on lockdown mode. If you're using something like Google Keep that syncs in the clear through the cloud, that's probably not good enough. Maybe you feel comfortable putting all your addresses and PO boxes and things that you want to have access to on a note on your computer. Your computer's encrypted, and then you can use some service to synchronize those and use Obsidian. That's fine. That's a decision you can make. Or maybe we just put everything in an encrypted vault and never think twice about it. So we all have some sort of tolerance to risk, and it seems to me that you want to make that choice with some knowledge. Am I willing to risk this or not? And how much trouble am I willing to go through? If I have to have a 4-note system, I just won't do it. Even a 3-note system is probably too much for regular consistent use. I find that when you have the super secure notes in Bitwarden and all the rest of the notes in standard notes, but then sometimes you make notes somewhere else. Well, now I don't remember where somewhere else is. Did I put it in the folder? Did I make it in the app? Was it in on the iCloud notes thing? Did I do it on Google Keep? Was it in Outlook? I mean, sometimes we play with those things, but your brain might want to find that pattern and figure out, where did I keep that information? So you probably already have a system for that in your mind. You open up a box you haven't had in a while, and you put a piece of paper in there that says, this is for, these things. And you go, oh yeah, that's good. That's a nice, timely piece of information. But if we're just going to have 1,000 notes that we want to search, you might not want to have to think about 20 different places where it is. So the easy way, but you get locked in, is just to use your Apple or Android built-in notes. Apple Notes on iCloud synchronizes with all your Apple devices. You can access them in the browser. You can turn on security, so it's a very secure system. And the Apple Notes has all kinds of other things like adding to the web and recording your phone calls, pasting in pictures and URLs, and you can have lists that you check off and on. So there's lots of good features there, not just plain text notes. But how do you get to them on Android? Well, if you're using Android, you probably use Google Keep. Google Keep has lots of great features. I have a couple buddies that use it because it's built in. If you're using Gmail all the time, it's kind of nice. Doesn't have the same security model, but then it's like using the Chrome password manager. You don't have to think about it outside of just, I logged in, I have access to my Google account, everything's fine. Then if you're really not worried about what's in the note, let's say your notes really are all recipes or your favorite animal shelters, or I don't know, whatever kinds of things we might want to note down. You keep a copy of the Constitution in a note like I do, and every now and then someone will say, well, the amendment to the Bill of Rights says this, and I'll pull up my note and I'll say, well, here's what it says exactly, because it came up enough that I just keep a copy of it on my phone in my notes. And if you're using something minimal security, like let's say you're using Obsidian, which is a markdown note manager that's really well made and great, you can save everything to iCloud, and it will just synchronize back and forth. You can open Obsidian on other platforms, on Windows, on Android. Obsidian is on all of them, but it's not really secure. What do I mean secure? I wouldn't put my social security number and my other tax information in a plain text note that wasn't encrypted. But maybe it's fine to keep notes of, oh, when I made that computer, that account is running this software, here's all the commands for me to run it and update it, and here's all my chat accounts, and here's where I'm doing my bill. Those sorts of things that you make notes of already, it might be fine. You have to decide what is your security model. I decided to not worry about it too much. I went for the paranoid model. So I'm using standard notes. It's free. I'm not paying for any of their advanced features. Not because I don't want to pay them. I just don't need to pay them. I mean, I don't want to pay for anything that I don't need, of course, but I don't need all the extra features. We'll look at some of them, but I'm just syncing text files, and that is included for free. But what's really important for me is the security model, the encryption model with standard notes has been proven. So standard notes can't read my notes. If somebody were to steal a copy of the notes while they were transferring from one device to another, no one else can read them either. And if I lose my password and second factor, then I can't read them. But there are also multiple options for backing up the notes. So I have full backups of the notes every day because I do have hundreds of them and I don't want to lose them. And it's easy. If I want to leave standard notes, they have a real easy just export all your notes button, and then I can go on to something else. That's an important step for me to be able to leave that platform. It's the number one reason that I don't use the Apple Notes. I like the Apple Notes as a product, but once I start putting in hundreds and hundreds of notes, I don't know how to get out of there. Maybe you can go to Apple and request your data export, and they'll give you a few links over, after a couple of days. That's too much for me. I can go into standard notes. I can export all my notes as text files. Done. If something else comes along that I want to try, I can just switch. And that's nice for me. Same thing with the reason when we were talking about Bitwarden, I can always export my Bitwarden and just go use a different password manager if I want to. So the downside, because there's always a pro and a con, there's the downside of having a highly secure synchronizing blob of data is that there's some things you can't do with your encrypted text note. I can't run tools on my computer to search those notes because those notes live inside the standard notes app. Yeah, I can export them, but until I export them, they're living in a security enclave of sorts in a big blob that I can only access through my standard notes app or website. So that's a downside. If you did a lot of automation, let's say you use the automator to go through and update notes automatically, or to read notes, or to use notes to trigger things, that doesn't work in this paranoid model. Then you really have to go back to a minimal security model where everything is in plain text on your computer, which is something I did for years. I had a Dropbox folder called Notes. I had 800 or 900 files in there, and I made sure to never put anything that was too sensitive in. That was fine for me. Okay, so we're going to go, when we go into hands-on, we're going to go through a few different websites, and then we'll focus on standard notes. We'll log in, or if you don't have an account, you can create one, set up multi-factor authentication, create some notes, open notes on another device so you can see they're synchronizing, and we'll go through some of the features of standard notes, like creating tags and compare the free versus paid. So I'll take questions after the video. Thank you.